Epiphany, that's this celebration that we are a part of today. It was actually Friday, the 6th of January. But because this is the church, we can transfer it to Sunday as well. And so we're celebrating Epiphany. Now, Epiphany is not a word that you use a lot, probably. When was the last time you used it?
Last year.
Last year, yeah. Okay. So, what does it mean? Well, Epiphany means appearance or manifestation or revelation or showing forth. Throughout the world, Christians celebrate this showing forth, this manifestation, this appearance of Jesus. It's the day that recognizes that Jesus has been shown to the Gentiles, to non-Jews. And how did that happen? Well, the Magi, mentioned in the reading, or wise men, or kings, as some people would have it, visited the child Jesus, and they were not Jewish people. They were not even believers. And what this tells us is that Jesus was God's gift of good news for all people, for anyone, for everyone. God disclosed himself to humankind through the person of Jesus. He made himself known so we might know him. So that's what Epiphany is about. But as I've been reflecting on that passage today, I want to explore Epiphany in a slightly different way. And I want to explore it in 5 words. 5 words. I'll tell you what they are before, I'll tell you during, I'll tell you afterwards. Journey is the first word, questions the second, joy the third, worship the fourth, and gifts the fifth. So let's start with journey. Verse 1 of Matthew chapter 2 says this: After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. Magi came to Jerusalem. These people, the Magi, and we don't know how many of them there were, actually. We don't. It doesn't tell us. We just think, because there were 3 gifts mentioned, that there must have been 3 people. But that's a complete and utter guess. But these Magi, they travelled hundreds of miles to find Jesus. It would have been a hard journey across a harsh landscape. Much of it desert. Yet these men were prepared to make the effort. So the Epiphany story reminds us that finding Jesus is a journey. And it's a journey that every single human being is on. Whether they've recognised they're on the journey or not. We're all on it. We're heading towards a destination. And that destination is having Jesus revealed to us as God himself in human form. and God for us. Now, as with any journey, it requires certain things. A journey requires time devoted to it. We are not in some kind of science fiction world where we go through a doorway and then straight out of the other doorway at the destination. A journey takes time. And because it takes time, it can also take effort. It takes effort to get yourself organised. It takes effort to actually either walk or even drive or even get yourself onto a plane. It takes effort to make a journey. And the same is true with the journey of faith. And that's one of the things that the Magi teaches us. We've got to put in time and effort, and we've got to find a vehicle. And for us, the vehicle is the church. The church enables us to make that journey of finding Jesus. Jesus is worth putting in the time and effort for, no matter what obstacles you face. And the Magi faced obstacles, distractions, disappointments, wrong turns, hardships. No matter what the obstacles, on this journey to find Jesus, keep going, keep seeking, keep moving. That is what the Magi did. That's what we should do. It's the lesson they have for us. Whereas the temptation is to slow down, pause, or even give up. The message of Epiphany is, don't do any of those three things, because they didn't. They kept going, they kept seeking, they kept moving. Journey. You got that first word? Second word, questions. Verse 2. Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? They asked that question. Finding Jesus, the real Jesus, as revealed in the New Testament, happens when we ask questions, just like the Magi did. We should never, ever be afraid of asking questions about Jesus. And they can be tough questions. They can be really deep questions. They can be questions that we might think are maybe silly. In fact, there's no such thing as a silly question. Questions helped the Magi find the way. Questions will help us find the way. Questions help us to discover vital pieces of the jigsaw of faith. Questions open up doors we might never have known existed. For the Magi, for instance, they expected, and maybe we would, to find the new king who the star was pointing to. They expected him to be born in Jerusalem, the capital city. They expected to find him in a palace because he was a king. And by asking the question, where is this new king? They were pointed in a totally different direction. They were pointed to Bethlehem. That's where the Messiah King was prophesied to be born. That obscure little backwater town, Bethlehem. You see, God didn't play by the human rules. God's King, the Messiah, God's Son, didn't have to be born in a palace. So ask those faith questions and see what surprising answers you get. And keep asking them. Don't be afraid that they may be tough questions. And here at the start of a new year, why not go to places where you can ask questions safely? Why not join one of our Bible studies in person on a Monday afternoon here in church? It is in church, isn't it? Or on Zoom on a Thursday night if you don't want to leave the comfort of your own home. Or the Bible Book Club once a month on a Saturday morning. Or Alpha Plus once a month on Zoom. Make that commitment today and bring your questions and ask your questions and grow in discovering more of Jesus. Ask away. That's one of the lessons of Epiphany. Third, joy. Verse 10 says, when they saw the star, they were overjoyed. The faith journey requires effort and hard work. I've already mentioned that. It can face hardships and disappointments and wrong turns and frustrations. But the Epiphany story tells us that there will be moments of sheer joy along the way. The Magi experienced joy. There'll be times when God shows us we're on the right road and we want to just go, yeah! With joy. There will be times of revelation, times of encouragement, times when we can feel overwhelming joy. The Christian journey isn't just about duty and boredom and gritting our teeth and getting our heads down. It should be joyous. Epiphany tells us that's true. Fourth, worship. Verse 2 says, we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. Verse 11, on coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary and they bowed down and worshipped him. There was a purpose behind the Magi's journey. They asked their questions because ultimately their intention was to worship this new king, to worship Jesus. Now I think that for many of us, worship, if we're honest, is something we take quite lightly. We can take it or leave it. It depends on whether we've got something better to do that day. Better. Actually, there is nothing better than worshipping the living God who's revealed himself in Jesus to us. Because when we connect with him, it's like a fire that comes and starts to burn within us. There is nothing better than true worship. And we need to get serious about worship. And we need to do what worship is about, which is offering to God a reflection of what he's worth. Worship should be something that is not an optional extra, like we've made it. Worship should be something that we make a priority. Worship should be something we choose. Worship makes the journey worthwhile. Worship is about Jesus. Worship is about honouring him in word and action. Worship is about recognising the worth of God. Give Jesus what he's worth today. Are you doing that? Worship is about our presence in his presence. Give him the offering of your time. Lastly, gifts. Verse 11. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh. Epiphany reminds us that the Magi brought gifts. Significant gifts. Not the sort of gifts that they picked up at a motorway service station on the way. Gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, myrrh pointing towards a significant death. Epiphany reminds us that we should ask ourselves what our offering to God should be. Worship doesn't just involve words, it involves actions, and it involves us paying a price. When we found Jesus, what were we giving that really matters? The poet Christina Rossetti captured it with these words that form the final verse of one of the most famous Christmas carols. What can I give him poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what I can, I give him. Give my heart. Would you give Jesus your heart today? Let me finish our Epiphany exploration with a quote from Pope Francis, which I like. The Magi's restless questioning and continuous journeying in dialogue with the Lord finds its end in the worship of God. Like the Magi, let us fall down and entrust ourselves to God in the wonder of worship. Let us worship God, not ourselves. Let us worship God and not the false idols that seduce by the allure of prestige and power. Let us love God and not bow down before passing things. We're going to play a piece of music just for the next couple of minutes. And I am going to invite you to think, what are you going to offer to God as we start this year of 2023 and as we go on in this year of 2023? What will you offer to God?